time, returning to the peace of my mind. Fear falls away, crack the shell of a new day.
This is Oluo Fakolade Ekabo. We welcome you today to our Ile Juba temple service. And also, happy Isheshe Day to all those Isheshe followers, all those practitioners of African spirituality. You are welcome and you are honored. Today is one of our special holidays within our tradition. So today, I want to begin once again with prayer. So if you are near your Ifa or you are near any of your shrines, please let us get in a good prayer position. Mojuba lorun, mojuba leta, mojuba loro mare, mojuba bobo rumale, mojuba bobo imale, mojuba bobo egun tembili solodo mare, mojuba oshungwade, mojuba gwade, mojuba fragramas, mojuba to, mojuba flori, mojuba pala corriente, mojuba Philippe Zaloweto, mojuba gunjobi. Mojuba Miye, Moju Shamala, Moju Shalanko, Moju Montonade, Moju Reshubi, Moju Baba, Sejamana, from the first, I won't Baba, Tier, two, share. Be, he who hears people's pleas and set the please, he who hears people's pleas and approves please, he who talks people and says it to talk, it's completely absorbed, he who hears people's pleas and sets the please, name Rifa, he who hears people's pleas and approves please, name Shoda, he who talks people and shows that the talk completely absorbs, name Roishanla. Or Shanla, you the person roles and beings, person most one can I felt him press one. The strike frogs on some rainfall, the both frogs on some downpour. It is whatever the Aka read you poem, two tells earth, what the thick steps. Whatever the big rat tells earth, what the thick steps. All what I tell you, Father, please accept them and approve them. Ashe. Oh, to show gratitude upon gratitude of our gratitude. To display benevolence upon benevolence is the all of our benevolence. Whoever not show gratitude for yesterday's benevolence, such a person has achieved today's gratuity. These declarations 5. To the 401 of Roomland going to marry Opwe, Otherwise Fuji. These also declarations 5 to a Roomland. We're going to marry Opwe, Otherwise Fuji. I'm grateful. I see my gratuity. I'm grateful yesterday's I see today's gratuity. All to Rete, we're very grateful. Ashe. Awa dupe. Awa bure. Àwa dúpẹ́ o, àwa búre. A dúpẹ́ àná o, a ó búre tù níbọ̀. Olódùmarè, àwa dúpẹ́, àwa búre. Àwa dúpẹ́ o, àwa búre. A dúpẹ́ àná o, a ó búre tù níbọ̀. Orí ẹni. Àwa dúpẹ́, àwa búre, àwa dúpẹ́ o, àwa búre, a dúpẹ́ àná o, a ó búre tù níbọ̀ pẹ̀lú mọ̀lẹ́. Àwa dúpẹ́. Upe anawa obue unebo legun lorisha. Olodumare and the divinity. We thank you for life. We thank you for health. We thank you for food. Thank you for shelter. We thank you for protecting us from things known and unknown. Before we ask for your forgiveness. Erosu and tutu. Pounded yam without soup can be very difficult to consume. These are decorations for tutu, the child of Agbeneregon. He was full of bad character. He's bad attitude that prevented him from entity domain. Now come to solicit on behalf of Tutu. Come to beg on behalf of Tutu. Father, please be patient. Overlook this provocation. Those who beg on behalf of Tutu. I'm not saying. Those who beg on behalf of Tutu. Those who solicit on behalf of Tutu. How many children does Ifa have that he would cast one of? Those who beg on behalf of Tutu. Ifa, at this time we ask that you would ward off death, ward off sickness, ward off cases, controversy, ward off disaster, ward off problems, ward off witchcraft, ward off the naysayers and the haters, and bring to us long life. Give us wealth, give us stable home, give us good spouse, give us good children, give us peace of mind, give us joy, give us victory, give us fulfillment. We call on the Odu. Ogdela roomless says time to sleep. I ask what is time to sleep when the day dawned. I'm at a room in the 16th room. Barry covered his head with a flowing gown full of lice. He was wearing dressed with bloodstains. He was snoring heavily. They told him that delegate from his entourage. Aruna inquired about the delegate it brought. They told him they brought 2 rats with the money, 2 fish gracefully swimming, 2 birds swift in flight, and 2 goats with big livers. Aruna said that's not enough to wake him up. I admit my ignorance, please educate me. Motuna Karaba, I hide myself in your bosom and survive. Motuna Karaba, the dog can masquerade with Agbajan repeatedly. The dog can masquerade with Agbajan repeatedly to perform rituals against the children. You are the leaders, we are the followers. These are the ones who show the followers wisdom. Oruma told them to get alligator pepper, to get cola nut, to get bitter cola, to get alcohol. The couple got the alligator pepper, got the cola nut, got the bitter cola, and got the alcohol. That's right. Now that he's fully awake. Oruma, when you're fully awake, with your eyes of compassion. It is with eyes of compassion that heavenly stars use look at the stars below. Orumla, when you're fully awake, please look at the direction code 1, 2. Secure great wealth is suck your eyes at the heavenly stars use and look at the stars below. Orumla, when you're fully awake, please look at me direction code 1, 2. Secure good spouses, such your eyes my spouse should use and look at me with. Orumla, when you're fully awake, please look at me direction code 1, 2. Bear many children and such your eyes a child should use and look at all decorated play. Be for long not to part, join us in the midst of all your in life. If I would call on you, or share, we have made so many prayers. We ask that you would hear those prayers at this time. Oshetra, Tanya, the fetal tubu, the stripe of a chameleon is not big enough to use this headgear. Had it been enough to use this headgear, I would have taken it home and adorned my hair with it. These be 5 decorations to Orola. I'm going on a special mission to Javelin. Who can't look is going to send pay money. Consult and make rich corn out of Orola, respect in the Javelin. No shield or is a good war. If I would call on you, we ask that you would move me out of the way so that we can hear a word of Ifa, a good word of Ifa. Move my ego out of the way so that we can hear truth, so that we can hear from Olodumare. Emma kamemene ama, Emma kamemene ano, Emma kamemene adelo kun. Etamole tori Ifa alonimi, eboda timpanimi, eni banami, ahun ati Ifa lelejo. Before we ask the true ward off our death, ward off sickness, ward off cases, controversy, ward off fights, ward off tragedy, ward off pain, and bring to us long life, the spouse, the children, healing, victory, joy, Oshetra. I kick any bagisa, the abstract trouble against the tree cast when he used to be by not chef from Olodumare. If no one to his realty, should be wealthy. I kick any bagisa, in the mouth of an hour, Zatibana share, in the mouth of an hour. If no church have joy, she'll have joy. I kick in a bagisa, and the mouth ones that Zibana share, and the mouth now war. If no church have victory, she'll have victory. I kick in a bagisa, and the mouth ones that Zibana share, and the mouth of an war. If no church have all good things of life, she'll have all good things of life. I kick in a bagisa, and the mouth ones that Zibana share, and the mouth now war. So, maybe so, surely shall it be. Ashe Orisha, lenu mi o, Ashe Orisha. Lẹ́nu mi bọ́bọ́n tí mo bá màmá wí o ìrúmọlẹ̀ ó bà Ifá ó bà ó àṣẹ òrìṣà lẹ́nu mi bí mo dúró tí mo súre bí mo pèrè tí mo súre bí mo kúnlẹ̀ tí mo ń súre, bí mo jókòó tí mo ń súre, ire tí mo sùn orí ti bọ́. Orí ẹni làrúrẹ ìyẹnì o, orí ẹni làrúrẹ ìyẹnì. Mojúlọ mi fà wá mọ́rí, orí ẹni làrúrẹ ìyẹnì. Obore chansu, Ifá ọba Ọlọ́run, Àtìbà ṣáájú. Ifá ọba Ọlọ́run, ó ṣe àrùìlà Ifá ti bọ́. Olódùmarè and all of the divinities, Eshu Odara, Orunmila, Oshun, Ifá, we ask that you would come and support us. Continue to push death, sickness, cases, controversy, ward off fights, ward off losses and challenges, ward off all these negative and evil things from us, and bring forth in its place. Give us long life, give us wealth, give us good spouses, give us good children, give us peace of mind, give us joy, healing, and success. Ashe. Thank you all once again for joining us. Once again, I'm Oluo Fakolade of Idinka Ifa Temple, and we welcome you to our Ile Juba temple service. So this temple service, I want to analyze the topic of failure and contrast that with fulfillment. What does failure look like, and what does fulfillment look like? So let us begin by analyzing, what does Ifa say failure is? What is failure? I want to take an example from the Odu Ifa, Ejogbe. Ifa says, do your work. I am not working. This was Ifa cast for the lazy person who sees work but chooses to remain idle. He who sleeps until the sun is overhead. He who relies on that which is possessed through inheritance. That person exposes themselves to suffering. If we do not toil and sweat profusely today, we shall not become wealthy tomorrow. March through the mud. I cannot march through the mud. If we do not march through the mud, our mouths cannot eat good food. These were the declarations of Ifa to the lazy person. He who possesses strong limbs but refuses to work. He who chooses to be idle in the morning. He is only resting for suffering in the evening. Only toiling can support one. Idleness cannot bring dividend. Whoever refuses to work, such a person does not deserve to eat. If a lazy person is hungry, please let him die. Dead or alive, a lazy person is a useless person. When we look at this Ifa is making things so very clear. Failure is dysfunction. Or not, I won't even say dysfunction. Failure is no function. Failure is when there is absolutely no movement, positive or negative. When we're not moving forward, we're not moving backward, we're just idle and we're like, You ever met people who are so bogged down in their despair, in their situation, that they refuse to move forward, up, and out of it? They refuse. They have the strength, they have the ability, they have the insight, they have been given the advice, but they choose, you know what? I'm just going to sit in this and wallow in it. The lazy person, the one who rides on the backs of others, the one who procrastinates. Sometimes we need to just do something. We need to just move. We need to move, whether it's wrong or if we're just trying to figure it out. Sometimes we need to just do something, because inactivity and lack of action at the time when action is necessary, is needed, that is also failure. So when we look at this concept of failure as not dysfunction, but lack of function at all, lack of movement at all, lack of action. Let us look at another type of failure that Ifa identifies. Ifa in the Odu Ogbeunle says, help me chase my fowl, is not with good intention. This was the Ifa declaration to Binisi. That is the way she behaves. The mother of Ofafa, the tree hyrax, who would lose all her money to the elders of the night. She was advised to offer Ebo. She refused to comply. What a pity. This is the way she behaves. Travelers to Ipo and Ofa town, let those advised to offer Ebo do so accordingly. So in this story, this is a story about a woman who is extremely stubborn. This woman never liked to be corrected. She could not take any advice from anyone. If anyone corrected her or advised her, she would fight them. You couldn't say anything to her that if she thought for a moment it was off color or she took offense to it, there would be a fight that day. It would be a physical altercation. It would be a verbal altercation. Any level of criticism, this woman would fight, and the fight would be serious. So as she moved about in her land, in her area, people began to know who she was. This was the woman who, anytime, she was always arguing with somebody, she was always fighting with somebody. Anytime anyone said, hey, take it easy, she would fight with them. She became known as Binisi, which is basically means that is the way she behaves. Her attitude never changed. Despite getting good advice, getting good suggestions, she didn't listen to anyone. People even tried to advise her on how to support her own child, or Fafa, the tree hyrax. And her attitude was even unruly at that moment. She was so unruly that she offended the Iami, the elders of the night, by her negative attitude and her lack of following of any advice and her constant quarreling with people. Her offense with them was so extreme that everything this woman began to lay her hands on wouldn't prosper. It wouldn't bear any fruits. Nothing she did turned out right. She would buy grain from the market, and by 2 days after, the grains would be filled with weevils and insects. She'd buy palm oil on one day. 2 days later, that palm oil would be white and spoiled. When she would buy new clothes, within a week's time, her garments would be filled with holes because moths and rats had eaten through her clothes. And the last straw happened when she decided she would go on a business trip. So she went on a business trip to procure items so she could sell them. And as she went out, she went to purchase things, and she was beaten profusely. She was beaten so badly, and then after that, she was robbed. So this woman limped back home, and this is what took her to the home of the Babalawo. So she went to the Babalawo, and she cast Ifa, and the Odu Ogbeunle came. And the Babalawo said, Iya, you need to change your attitude. Also, you need to feed the elders of the night because you have created a really powerful offense against them. And now they are enacting and extracting a price from you as a result of your negative actions. So this woman got angry with the Babalao. She got so angry with him that she said, why do I have to feed somebody that I don't know? And how did I offend someone that I don't know? Matter of fact, jump in the lake, she says to the Babalao. And then she says, give me my money back. I want a refund on this reading because this reading did not read anything about me. She then took her money from the Babalao and stormed out of his house. She changed nothing about her attitude. This woman continued to live a life sad and unfulfilled and continuing to argue with the other people and continuing to reap the negative benefits of her bad actions with the Iami. This is point number 2. Failure is also failing to follow Ifa's advice, failing to follow good advice, failing to offer abo, failing to, once you offer the abo, failing to adhere to the taboos, the restrictions, the advices. If you offer the abo and you don't follow the advice, it's as good as not offering abo at all. Being stubborn, immovable, all of these things are examples of failure. All of these things are cocktails for destruction. So we mentioned inactivity. Now, failure is also complete action in the wrong direction, making horrible choices leads to failure. Now, I want to talk about when we've discussed what failure is. Now, when the world looks at you like a success, but you are truly a failure, what does that look like? And then when the world sees you as being a quote unquote failure, but the Irumole see you as being a success. Ifa says in Oshe Meji, the smartness of Olongo bird, the agility of a power partridge. These were Ifa's declarations to Orumila when going to take wrestling as a profession. He was advised to offer abo. He complied. The smartness of Olongo bird. Olongo is very smart. Edu Ifa needs not engage in physical combat. Sheshe Olongo, if you throw, consult Ifa, you shall offer rat. Olongo Sheshe. Sheshe Olongo. Edu needs not to engage in physical combat. Sheshe Olongo, if you consult Ifa, you will offer fish. Olongo Sheshe. Edu does not have any need to engage in physical fight. Sheshe Olongo. Olongo Sheshe. If we consult Ifa, we will offer birds. Sheshe Olongo. Olongo Sheshe. Edu has no need for physical combat. Sheshe Olongo. If you consult Ifa, you shall offer beasts. Olongo Sheshe. Edu needs not engage in any physical combat. Sheshe Olongo. Olongo Sheshe. So in this Ifa, Orumila himself was the world champion. The world champion, undefeated, undisputed champ of the world in wrestling. He had so many abilities and mechanisms to help him win. And any opponent that came before him, Orumila would defeat them quickly. He was incredibly skilled. And no one in the ring could touch him or defend against his attack. When he won his last fight, he knocked out his opponent and he was given the title. And on this title fight, his title championship belt was leopard skin. So he was given the leopard skin as sign that he was the champion of the world, the one who shook up the world. Why? Because his back never touched the ground like the leopard. When Orunmila got home, he got home to his family and he showed his family, look at all these trophies that I won. I got this leopard skin. I got all these things I've won. I'm a successful wrestler. And his wife looked unhappy. How could leopard skin feed the family? How could all these trophies and accolades further the existence of the whole, the family? So let's think about this. What happens when you are successful by the world standards, yet you are a failure in life, a failure in your destiny? The world is full of famous failures. People with new expensive homes, but those homes are not filled with happiness. Folks with Bugattis and Bentleys, but they have nowhere of substance to go. Hollywood is a place that literally profits off of the dysfunction of people. The more ill, the more extreme the mental illness, the addiction, the pain, the more famous and the more profitable. I look at one of my favorite singers, Amy Winehouse. Incredible singer, known the world over. Incredible singer, Grammy nominated, Grammy award winning singer, yet she dies of alcohol toxicity. When Amy Winehouse passed away, she had an alcohol toxicity of 0.4%. Mind you, let's put this in perspective. The legal limit is 0.08. So that means 4% of the liquid in her body was alcohol. She died of alcohol toxicity. I just want us to take that into consideration. My point is not to discuss or put her down or discuss the sadness of her life, but my point is that you can be successful and still lose. The world can see you as great, but until you are walking in your destiny, walking in your appointment, you will be unhappy. Orunmila was the greatest wrestler in the world, but he was not successful. He was still failing. It was not until he cast Ifa and the Babalawo told him that there was absolutely no need for him to engage in wrestling or any physical combat. Instead of wrestling, Orunmila needed to, instead of win the fight, he needed to throw the fight. He needed to figuratively throw the fight to allow his opponents to throw him to the ground. Orunmila offered a bow and he complied with the advice. He showed up to the next fight, and this time he had his Opwele, he has his Akim, and he was walking in what Olodumare had appointed him to do. He was casting Ifa for his fellow fighters. The fighters were casting Ifa, and they were throwing the Opwele to the ground. They were figuratively throwing Orunmila to the ground. And Orunmila was allowing them to throw him to the ground. And every time they cast Ifa, they had to offer rat. They had to offer fish. They had to offer money. And this is what made Orunmila successful. Sometimes we may be successful in the eyes of people who don't know who we really are. And sometimes we don't know who we really are. We can be great in a destiny that is not ours at all. This is failure. But fulfillment comes when we find our true path, we find our true calling. We discover what we came here and what we were anointed and appointed to do. I have an old friend who used to say, it isn't until we meet ourselves. Ifa is a key that assists us in meeting ourselves and having knowledge of self to assist us to elevate, to prosper, to take our lives to the next level. But taking your life to the next level, all that means is I'm living my purpose. I'm living my destiny. Last, I want to talk about when the world sees you as a failure, but in actuality, you are moving in alignment with your destiny. In Ogbe Oshe, Ifa says, the suffering of an awo is not forever. The want of an awo will soon turn to prosperity. Sooner or later, we shall recline our back and laugh over this matter. We shall spread our two legs in contentment. This was Ifa Castro of Shanlao Shedemagbo when going to take a cripple as his first servant. He was advised to offer a bow. He complied. The servant that I have is a pious one. The servant that I have has brought me prosperity. The servant that I have is indeed a pious one. So this is a story about Obatala, also known as Oshanla Shedemagbo. Obatala wanted to start a new business, and he needed someone to kind of help him around the house so that he would have the time to do the business out in the world. So Obatala went for Ifa consultation, and he cast Ifa with Orumila himself. He said he wanted to go to a Jibomukon market to purchase a person who had a debt as a servant. You pay the person's debt, and they would come and work off their debt with Obatala. Orumila told him that he would be very successful as a result of this. He would be very influential. He would be very rich. He also told Obatala, yet during the initial stages will be very difficult. Things will look bad at first. Obatala, you will look like a failure to the world. Everyone will look at you like, what up? But if you can stay the course, you will be successful. The only catch is when you get to a Jibomukon market, the first servant you see, that is the servant that you pick. That is the servant you pay his debt and take him home. Obatala agreed. He offered the abo. He complied with the advice. On the day Obatala went to a Jibomukon market, the first servant that he saw was a man who was crippled. His legs didn't work at all. As a matter of fact, this man, when he saw him, he was laying on his side, and he could see that the legs of this person had atrophied, and they were slender and weak. He was crippled. And Obatala was like, Ifa said, the first servant I see, that is the one I need to pick. This is the first one that I see. He's crippled. How is this gonna work? Obatala remembered what Ifa said. And sometimes what we need to do is don't think about what we see in the world. It ain't what's in the natural world. We're looking, Ifa's telling you something that's in the future, that's in the world that Olodumare wants to create for you. And Obatala was like, all right, let me follow Ifa's advice. I will get this person. And he has this servant. And what ends up happening is Obatala purchases his debt. He ends up picking up his servant, putting his servant on his back, and carrying his servant to the house. He employed this servant with so much grief. And as I said, he carried him home. And Obatala had his servant on the ground, and he was worried about his own servant's survival. Like, he couldn't fend for himself on his own. Obatala thought, well, this man is crippled. He can't feed himself. So in essence, Obatala was feeding and waiting on his own servant. He waited on this man hand and foot. And Obatala's servant ended up initially being a liability to Obatala, because Obatala could not go out and work. He had to take care of his servant. He sacrificed his own business to care for his servant. Obatala bought a liability, so he thought. In the eyes of the world, everyone was looking at Obatala like, bro, your servant can't even walk. You can't do anything. You got to take care of him. What a failure. You are a failure. Has anyone ever said you are a failure? But you're doing what you know you're supposed to do, but the world is like, man, you're failing. You still offering a bow? The situation hasn't changed. You're failing. As Obatala continued with his servant in actuality became his best friend, his companion and confidant. This was his best bro. And at a certain moment, over time, his servant began to say, look, Obatala, look, just put me out in the farm, man. Let me go. I put me in a tent out there. I can fend for myself. Just put me in the tent, man. After weeks of begging Obatala was like, okay, man. I mean, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'll put a place out there for you. And Obatala, even at a certain point, he was like, man, I'm going to miss my friend. Let me put him out there. He didn't know that his servant was actually an expert bird catcher. So as Obatala was out doing his thing, his servant was catching birds, and he caught so many African gray parrots, and he would harvest their red feathers. And out of gratitude, the servant made a crown of these red parrot feathers for Obatala. He presented them to Obatala, and Obatala was surprised, like, man, what is this? How did you do this? And he told him, I'm an expert bird catcher. He gave Obatala the crown, and Obatala wore his crown amongst the other Irumale. And they liked the crown so much that they too wanted to purchase a crown from Obatala's servant. And in the process, Obatala became very rich, and his servant became very rich. Servant became so rich that he bought his freedom. But the situation was such a good situation. His servant was like, no, you're my best bud. I'll live here, you live over there, and let's continue to work together. Imagine this. Imagine when the situation that you find yourself in, the moment that you think you're in the midst of failure, it is your failure that gives you the crown. Sometimes we might look like a failure to the rest of the world, but that's merely a setback momentarily for setup for greatness. Imagine how Obatala looked to the rest of the world, to folks around the world. They might have thought about how he said he was going to start a business, but instead he followed Ifa. Sometimes Ifa will bring us failure in order to break us out of what we know, break us out of our comfort zone. How can you become great if you continue to do the same thing? Failure oftentimes is something that shares with us a new way of attacking an old situation. You must do the uncommon, the unusual, if you want to become great. You can't do it the same way. When you go to the gym and you're working your muscle, you're trying to build that muscle. The muscle has to be stressed. You have to lift weights in order to stress the muscle. You have to train in order to stress the body just enough to tear it, to tear the muscle fibers so that you can come back even stronger. You stress the muscle, tear it, rest, rebuild, become stronger. You make your body uncomfortable in order for your body to grow. You make your spirit uncomfortable in order for your spirit to grow. Some of us are in a moment of failure right now because God is tearing us down, tearing the muscle fibers in our life down in order to build us back stronger, bigger, better. When trouble comes, sometimes we need to get in a space of being comfortable with being uncomfortable, enduring temporary failure in order to experience a permanent fulfillment. Aboraboye. Thank you all so much for listening. I pray that this Ifa message has been something that has really helped us. It is so important, as I said before, to look at these moments, to really understand what failure is and what failure isn't. Because it can be a time when we think we're failing, but we're moving in the direction of fulfillment. And also, there can be times when we think we're doing it, but we are not doing anything. We ain't doing nothing. So, anyhow, thank you all for joining us. I have a couple of announcements. So, once again, today is Asheshe Day. Happy Asheshe Day to all the Asheshe followers. So, in terms of that, this is a good day to just pray, give homage. It's raining here today. If it wasn't raining, perhaps we would be having a little bit of a festival. But we'll have a festival of our own with ourselves, regardless. But today is a good day to do such things. Today is a good day to give homage to the Irumole. Also, I started back with Conversations with Ifa. So Conversations with Ifa is every other Friday, and we've been doing that. And so if any of you are interested in coming to Conversations with Ifa, please follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, and you'll be able to get the flyer and get all these announcements. And also follow us on the website. Go to the website below. And if you enjoy, if what we're doing is enriching to you, I encourage us to like and share. Like and share these videos. Also, support Eden Kaifa Temple. If any of you have any donations, you like the things that we're doing, you want to participate, you want to be a member, you want to be involved, please come through. Thank you so very much. I want to close with prayer. Olodumare, we thank you for the moments that we failed. And we thank you for being the barometer for our fulfillment. We ask at this time that you would support us throughout the week. Help us to be energized and encouraged and elevated so that we can continue to find, follow, and fulfill our destiny. For it is our destiny that fulfills us. Thank you so much. Aboro, Aboye, Aboshishe, Agboto.
Iwapele, live tomorrow, build your character today. Iwapele, live tomorrow, build your character today. I just say a prayer to my Ori, yeah. When I wake, I sprinkle some OT, yeah. I can break the chains cause I'm free, yeah. My Egun is watching over me, yeah. Kneeling down, I'm praying at the shrine.